on critical blood disorders. We have a distinguished lineup of speakers and thought leaders gathered here today to shed light on various aspects concerning these conditions. Before we embark on this enlightening webinar, let me introduce you to Dr. Amitabh Singh, who is the moderator of the event.
Thank you, Upasana. Good evening to everyone. It is my honor to welcome you all to this insightful webinar, Blood Disorders, the Invisible Disability. I will be guiding you through this enriching program today. We have an exceptional lineup of speakers, each bringing their unique expertise and insights to the table. It is my privilege to introduce a distinguished personality who has been instrumental in advocating for inclusivity and empowerment. Please join me in welcoming our chief guest, IS Sri Rajesh Agrawal ji, a visionary leader and the Secretary of the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India. Thank you, sir, for taking time on a Sunday for this important topic we wanted to address today. So before we move forward, this is a historical day because all the three federations who have been tirelessly working for many years now, federations of thalassemia, sickle cell, and hemophilia have joined together to organize this webinar. And I thank all the three federations for all their efforts. The common link is between all these three is the problems that are being faced by people with blood disorders, whether it is problem of getting the UDID card or whether the problem of proper implementation of what is already in the RPDWD Act. Also related to the social benefits, which most of the patient advocacy groups have been demanding, like clear inclusion criteria, more research and implementation on prevention and control for the hemoglobin disorders and hemophilia, and welfare schemes which are homogeneous throughout the country. So our focus today is on the disability guidelines which already exist, and we will hear from the experts their insights and what is in store in future. And this will set agenda for our future webinars also. Now, I will like to welcome with great pleasure Mrs. Shobha Tulli ma'am, who needs no introduction. She is the president of Indian Thalassemia, president of Federation of Indian Thalassemics, a respected figure whose inspirational work is known to everyone, her dedication. I request her to give the welcome address for this and introduce the meeting for the audience.
Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to all present here in today's webinar. Guest speakers, panelists, moderators, patients, parents, and NGO representatives. A big welcome to the chief guest of the day, Shri Rajesh Agrawal ji, Secretary, Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India. Sir, we are so proud to have you with us today. You are so passionate about accessibility issues and also about use of Indian languages on the computer. आपका हार्दिक धन्यवाद अपना कीमती समय देने के लिए. हमें पूरी उम्मीद है कि आपका साथ और आशीर्वाद हम सब पर बना रहेगा. It is an honor for me to welcome you, sir. Your presence means a lot to us at NASCO, Hemophilia Federation and Federation of Indian Thalassemics. Welcome, Dr. Sunita Mondal, ma'am, Shri T.D. Dharyal, sir, Dr. Nrula Alfitrio, Ms. Biba Tinga, Madam Vinita Srivastava, Dr. Sanjay Vatwa, Dr. Tulika Seth, Dr. Amitabh Singh, and Dr. Ritika Sad. Your expertise in this field is known to all of us. Very special welcome to the patient group representatives, Anubha Taneja Mukherjee, Lalit Pargi, Anuj Vadera, and Herschel Kale from hemophilia, thalassemia, and sickle cell patient groups. As you are aware that today's meeting is organized by the three blood disorder federations working voluntarily for many, many years in thalassemia, sickle cell, and hemophilia sectors. I take pride in stating that from today onwards, all three federations will be working hand in hand towards the common issues related to Divyang and health. We all, including myself, Prem Roop Alwa, Gautam Dongre, took the lead in planning this event with the input from For all of us, it is an historical day, the 3rd of December 2023. Of course, we need blessings and support from government authorities. Here, I must mention about Dr. Tulika Seth and Madam Vinita Srivastava leadership and cooperation in planning this event. धन्यवाद, आप सबका सहयोग सदा हमारे साथ बना रहे. शुक्रिया. Let's move on with the program now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shobha ma'am. We are having a webinar, but as is the tradition, we'll like to have a digital lamp lighting now to start the program. Thank you, Upasana. Now I welcome Mr. Prem Roop Alwa, who is a champion for advocacy for hemophilia patients. And as we have already informed that this webinar has been organized by all three federations, so we will now like to hear from Mr. Prem.
Thank you, Doctor. Namaste and good evening to our blood disorder family. Today is a day of great significance. In 1992, UN established the International Day for Persons with Disability on 3rd of December. This year's theme is United in Actions. Today's webinar is in sync or in act. United in Action comes the Thalassemia Organization, the Sickle Cell Organization, and the Hemophilia Organization. We come together for the first time. It's genuinely a historic moment. We plan to stand united on the health, treatment, and the disability track of our advocacy. We as a community face an invisible disability. We encounter unique challenges which are completely different than the rest of the disabilities, we could arguably say. One day we are fine, the next day we face various issues. Awareness and sensitization of our condition is extremely important. We come jointly, our aim is to create awareness, sensitize our condition, support the community, and advocate for the best. I feel excited and I feel a lot of gratitude for the kind of support we have received from the government, and great speakers are lined up today for all of you to hear. I'm confident that all of you will enjoy the program which has been planned. It's going to be both engaging and informative. A special thanks to all the speakers and a huge gratitude and thanks to our chief guest, Rajesh Agarwal ji, for his support. He's always been keen on supporting the hemophilia community and the blood disorder communities. He's always heard us out and eager to help us. Thank you, sir. Thank you all for your presence. It's going to be a great webinar. It's a series of webinars which we'll be having. Thank you all for coming. I completely believe that together we shall make our community better. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Premji. Now we will hear from a distinguished figure in the realm of healthcare, advocacy, and support, Dr. J.S. Arora, who is the General Secretary of the Federation of Indian Thalassemics. Sir, are you there?
Yes, I was muted. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. I once again like to thank Honorable Shri Rajesh Agarwal, Secretary Department of Empowerment, Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment, Madam Nitaji, Mr. T.D. Dharyal, and Dr. Anrula, and others, for sparing your valuable time today evening, that being a Sunday, to listen to us the challenges faced by persons with disability affected with blood disorders. Thalassemia is one of the 3 disabilities with blood disorders which has been included in the 21 disabilities in RBW Act 2016. We are grateful to Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji for including blood disorders in the RPW Act 2016. This has certainly raised their confidence level to dream for near normal life. However, everyone present here understands thalassemia, but just to recap, thalassemia major is a lifelong disorder which requires lifelong blood transfusion and costly medicine. In spite of best possible treatment, they land up into complications, so cannot compete with their peers. Inclusion in the RPW Act has given them opportunity to get admission in higher studies in subject of their choice at premier institutes. Some states are also providing disability pensions, though no reservation in employment is there, but non-discrimination allows them to reveal their identity at workplace, which they were not revealing earlier. They're also getting extra 30 minutes in the examinations. And moreover, the CGHS benefit to the kin of this thalassemia patients. Earlier, it was available only to girls after 25 years of age. Now it is available to boys as well. And there is income tax exemption of 40,000 for the income tax deduction under Income Tax Act. But there are still few issues within the pipeline that I'd like to highlight to the Honorable Secretary. That is the new guidelines scoring has been almost finalized. I'll request them that to be notified at the earliest, so that the new guidelines, which are very clear and cut, and that will help us in getting this disability certificate much easier. Moreover, I was a member of a committee which was appointed to see the aids and appliances for the disabled persons. And Dr. Sanjay Badwa is also there. He was also there. And already we have recommended to the government a few things. As I'll ask for the thalassemia only first right now. That is the infusion pumps with scalpel sets and leukocyte filters. That has already been recommended to the government in earlier 2018, it was passed. And then again in December 2021. So I'll request the Honorable Secretary to please get it cleared at the earliest. And one more thing is there, that is the income tax exemption, which is up to 40,000. I think they incur expenses more than 1 lakh or so. I'll request them to increase either to the actual expenses or to at least 1 lakh rupees. Another step that is taken by the government is that there is a provision in section 24J to have a comprehensive insurance scheme for persons with disability. And we have undergone one meeting with the IRDA as well, where we have shown that a New India Assurance has come up a policy for the person with disability. So I like to just highlight here the policy for a 30-year-old person who is a non-disabled normal person, that costs just 6,000 to 10,000 in various insurance companies, say around 700 per month. While for thalassemia and sickle cell anemia, it is costing 34,000 per annum. That is more than 4 times. While it should not be, there is a provision, the RPW Act, that it should be insured, they should be insured at par without any extra premium, which is available to other persons. So I request you to please look into this as well. And the most important thing that we are facing the problem is still today, though there is in India technology is available, awareness is there, but still there is no comprehensive prevention program. And we'll request you to have a comprehensive prevention program and a registry, because we don't have any data for even thalassemia, sickle cell, or hemophilia patient, the exact data. So there should be registry for all the diseases, so that we know what is the burden and how to go about, what precautions to be taken, and what steps need to for the adequate treatment. And another most important thing is, see, there's this discrimination within the RBW as well for these blood disorder people. That is the all other categories of like visually impaired, hearing impaired, locomotor, they get 5% reservation in the jobs. While these blood disorder people, they are denied of this reservation in the employment. So there is a discrimination within the act as well. So I'll request you to look into it and provide this reservation in the employment to blood disorders as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. You have summarized it well, and these are the common problems and common demands from the patient perspective. Thank you for your words. Now, we have the privilege of gaining invaluable insight into sickle cell disease from a patient's perspective. We welcome now Sri Gautam Dongre, the Secretary of the National Alliance of Sickle Cell Organization, NASCO. We request Gautamji to please share his views.
नमस्कार, थैंक यू सो मच सर। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप सभी लोगों का। सबसे पहले मैं ऑर्गेनाइजिंग कमिटी और नेशनल अलायंस ऑफ सिकल सेल डिसीज ऑर्गेनाइजेशन नेस्को और सिकल सेल कम्युनिटी ऑफ इंडिया की तरफ से हमारे माननीय चीफ गेस्ट सर का, बाकी स्पीकर्स का, मॉडरेटर्स का, पैनलिस्ट का और हमारे इंटरनेशनल स्पीकर्स का बहुत बहुत स्वागत करता हूं। भारत सरकार को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूं आज के इस मौके पर कि उन्होंने सिकल सेल को दिव्यांग श्रेणी में जगह दी। साथ ही बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूं कि सिकल सेल को मिशन मोड में लाने के लिए उन्होंने प्रयास किया और उसका आगाज किया, जिसकी भारत में बहुत सख्त जरूरत थी, क्योंकि आज भारत में तकरीबन 14 लाख सिकल सेल पीड़ित है और 2 करोड़ के से भी ज्यादा सिकल सेल वाहक है, जो कि काफी तकलीफ की बात है। कभी भी ये सिकल सेल पीड़ित को जन्म दे सकते हैं। हर साल तकरीबन 50,000 सिकल सेल पीड़ित जन्म ले रहे हैं। इसलिए ये जो सिकल सेल मिशन आया है, उसके लिए मैं सरकार का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद दूंगा। हमारे हेमोफीलिया और थैलेसीमिया जो नेशनल संगठन है, वो पिछले कई दशकों से अपने डिसीज की एडवोकेसी के लिए काफी प्रयास कर रहे हैं और उनके प्रयासों को देखते हुए नेशनल अलायंस ऑफ सिकल सेल डिसीज ऑर्गेनाइजेशन नेस्को ने भी अपने प्रयासों को राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर लाने की पिछले 3 से 4 वर्षों में कोशिशें शुरू की, जिसका भारत सरकार ने भी हमेशा पिछले 3 वर्षों में सुना। साथ ही हमारे कमेटी के सभी डॉक्टर्स लोगों ने सिकल सेल पीड़ितों के प्रॉब्लम्स को ध्यान में रख करके आज जो हमें सुविधाएं मिल रही है, जिसकी वजह से काफी सिकल सेल पीड़ित अपने 5 वर्ष के ऊपर के समय को देख पा रहे हैं। नहीं तो अक्सर ऐसा होता था कि 5 वर्ष के नीचे की आयु में ही वो उनका देहांत हो जाता था। आज जब डिसेबिलिटी डे हम लोग मना रहे हैं, तो मेरे सिर्फ 2 बातों के ऊपर सरकार से थोड़ा निवेदन रहेगा। वो 2 बातें हैं। सबसे पहली यूडीआईडी सर्टिफिकेट, क्योंकि भारत सरकार ने जो सोशल एम्पावरमेंट मिनिस्ट्री है, उन्होंने यूडीआईडी सर्टिफिकेट 2018 से सिकल सेल पीड़ितों को लागू किया है। लेकिन शोकांति का यह है कि अभी जो एग्जिस्टिंग नॉर्म्स है, स्कोरिंग सिस्टम है, उसकी वजह से पिछले 5 वर्षों में 1% भी सिकल सेल पीड़ितों को यूडीआईडी कार्ड का लाभ नहीं मिल पाया है। और इस वजह से जो हमारी भारत सरकार ने सिकल सेल डिसीज को मुख्य प्रवाह में लाने का प्रयास किया है, वो प्रयास अभी भी असफल है, क्योंकि सारी सुविधाओं का एक ही मात्र दरवाजा है, वो है यूडीआईडी कार्ड। और वो यूडीआईडी कार्ड ही सिकल सेल पीड़ितों को नहीं मिल पाता, क्योंकि उसके नॉर्म्स इतने कड़क है। भारत सरकार इस पर प्रयास कर रही है और हमारी कमेटी यहाँ पर जो उपस्थित है, उनसे हमें उम्मीद है कि ये नॉर्म्स जो शिथिल हो, और मैं भी उस कमेटी का एक सब कमेटी का हिस्सा हूँ, इसलिए मुझे भरोसा है कि जल्द से जल्द ये लागू हो, क्योंकि लाखों पीड़ित इस वक्त का रास्ता देख रहे हैं कि कब हमें जो सरकार उन्हें मुख्य धारा में लाने का विचार कर रही है उसका लाभ मिल सके। अभी परिस्थिति ऐसी है कि वो सिकल सेल पीड़ित भी है, लेकिन उन्हें नॉर्मल जैसा ही बिहेव होता है क्योंकि उन्हें कहीं पर कोई लाभ मिल नहीं पा रहा है। तो मेरा एक सबसे पहला आपसे सेक्रेटरी साहब से अनुरोध रहेगा कि जो नया गाइडलाइंस होगा उसे जल्द से जल्द आप रिन्यू कराएँ। दूसरा, हाइड्रोक्सी यूरिया कैप्सूल, ये एक 2 से 3 रुपए की मात्र कैप्सूल है, जो कि हमारे सिकल सेल पीड़ितों के लिए जीवन संजीवनी है। अगर यह कैप्सूल उन्हें सही समय पर सही मात्रा पे नहीं मिलेगा, तो उनकी लाइफ डिसेबल्ड की तरफ बहुत तेज़ी से बढ़ती है क्योंकि उन्हें एवियन जैसे प्रॉब्लम्स 15 साल के पहले ही हो जाते हैं, तो वो खेलने-कूदने की उम्र में ही अपंग होकर हो जाते हैं। तो आज जब हम इंटरनेशनल डिसेबिलिटी डे मना रहे हैं, इस उपलक्ष्य में हम हमारे भारत के लोगों को, करोड़ों लोगों को, लाखों लोगों को एक 3 रुपए की कैप्सूल देकर के डिसेबल होने से बचा सकते हैं। इसके लिए मेरा अनुरोध ये रहेगा कि हाइड्रोक्सी यूरिया कैप्सूल का जो अवेयरनेस है, वो जनसामान्य में और साथ ही प्रोफेशनल्स में भी इसका किया जाए। क्योंकि जनरली हमारे पेशेंट्स प्राइमरी हेल्थ सेंटर और डिस्ट्रिक्ट हॉस्पिटल में जाते हैं, तो वहाँ के डॉक्टर्स को इसके बारे में थोड़ी जानकारी हो। इसे लेने पर हम नियर नॉर्मल लाइफ जी सकते हैं और यही आज के इस उपलक्ष्य में मेरा आपसे अनुरोध रहेगा कि भारत में हाइड्रोक्सी यूरिया को लेकर के प्रचार-प्रसार के लिए आप ट्रेनिंग मॉड्यूल बनाएँ। साथ ही उसे सभी पीएससी और डिस्ट्रिक्ट हेल्थ ऑफिसर्स को उसके बारे में जानकारी दें। अवेलेबिलिटी का हमें प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, सरकार अवेलेबल करा देती है, सिर्फ़ डिमांड डॉक्टर्स की तरफ से नहीं हो पा रही है, इसलिए पेशेंट तक नहीं पहुँच पा रहा है, इसलिए वो डिसेबल्ड हो रहे हैं। तो ये बहुत छोटी-सी बात है, अगर इस पर आप थोड़ा ध्यान दें तो बहुत-बहुत विनंती है। आज के उपलक्ष्य में मेरा यही आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है और आज के इस वेबिनार में आने के लिए आप सभी लोगों का बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you, Gautam ji. Now, it is my privilege to introduce an eminent leader in the field of thalassemia advocacy and support, Dr. Androla, the Executive Director of Thalassemia International Federation. We are excited that you were able to join in person for this webinar, and I would love to hear your views on this topic of importance to all of us.
Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear Mrs. Chuli, representing the Thalassemic Patients Community of India, an eminent member of the Board of Directors of TIF, dear other hematological disorders patient representatives, it is an honor and a privilege for me to represent Thalassemia International Federation with an undivided focus on thalassemia, but in more current years, with considerable support to sickle cell disease and rare anemias through mainly its educational programs. TIF's work focuses since its establishment, of course, on achieving a united voice and on having a united action towards improving health and social inequities and inequalities across the world, very much reflected, ladies and gentlemen, in the case of the patients and the disorder we represent, that is thalassemia, in the many and multiple unmet needs existing in the greatest majority of the countries where sadly more than 85% of this patient community lives. TIF consequently joins its voice and the global effort on this day, the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, demanding global action for improvements, demanding global action for honoring our signatures when agreeing the Sustainable Development Goal developments by the United Nations and their achievement by 2030. And even more specifically of Goal 3, focusing on health and well-being for, with, and by persons with disabilities and their representative organizations, which played and continue to play a substantial role without, of course, leaving behind governments, competent health authorities, and other competent bodies, healthcare professionals, researchers, and academia out of this game. Everyone has a key role to play to make this happen. Indeed, the title of this webinar is very appropriately expressing and reflecting the challenges faced by individuals with chronic, non-malignant hematological complex disorders with multi-organ involvement and lifelong needs of care and treatment, such as thalassemia, sickle cell disease, and hemophilia. These disorders are often underestimated with regards to their needs for disability consideration. They are disorders for which there is ample scientific knowledge and experience for some years now of how to effectively prevent and treat. Countries which provide effective care, for example, see their patients grow, become educated, make families, pursue professional careers, and the focus of the governments in these cases is mostly in health service provision and empowerment of research. On the other hand, in countries when suboptimal or very poor care is available, the focus of the governments is in increasing resources for making basic care available to their patients to secure their survival. But in both situations, very little attention is given to all those silent, indeed silent, disability aspects related to their disease and its care. Frequent medical consultation, hospital visits, lifelong regular transfusions, frequent traveling, often long distances to reach their treating centers, time lost for their education, work, and everyday commitment, all in all, lessening their opportunities to achieve their goals in life. Moreover, the disease itself and its treatment are related to pain, often chronic, adverse reactions and side effects, poor bone structure, vision and hearing problems, all of which and many other medical complications cause different and to various extent and severity disabilities to the individual, but quite hidden or silent because these patients are physically seen as having no problem. We at Thalassemia International Federation are very proud of countries, governments, patient and healthcare professional communities that have indeed recognized such challenges and have treated with respect the needs of these individuals. Certainly the word disability receives different definitions and interpretations by different official bodies, particularly at the national country level. And consequently and subsequently, they provide different levels of support and social care to these patients. But also patients themselves, ladies and gentlemen, have quite divergent ideas and positions on whether they should be included in the disability acts and regulations of their countries, or whether they should be called people with disabilities at all. India, Greece, and Italy, for example, have been amongst the countries globally that have included thalassemia in the context of their disability legislations, and patients and families are reporting great satisfaction, while many other countries, in fact, most of the rest, have included benefits only in their country's social benefits acts. And many others are still giving no attention to this aspect of the disease at all. Whatever the case, TIF supports those actions taken by the governments that will facilitate the lives of patients with these disorders, to be able to travel to their treating centers, to be able to receive education at any level they wish, to pursue professional careers, and to be able to live decently and have access to all that life offers. TIF supports the fact that many of the disabilities develop during life in both well-treated, but even more significantly in poorly managed patients. They're not obvious, not seen with the naked eye, as we say, because physical impairment has remained in the minds of many decision makers as the criteria for disability recognition. TIFF highly appreciates and is greatly indebted to the Indian government for the RPWD Act 2016, giving our patients really the right to equality and life with dignity and respect, while thousands of others across the world are still struggling for their basic principles in life. And the way and strategy followed by Indian competent authorities is truly exemplary because it is governed by justice and respect for all. For example, the benchmark disability of 40% plus and the 3 categories of benefits our patients are entitled to. But any strategy and any plan of action requires revisiting for further improvements. And we are very happy to see that this will be discussed in this important webinar. Not being able to achieve basic needs in life is a disability itself, and governments need to have their eyes open to all these silent challenges that are characteristics of the patients that we represent today, and to address them appropriately, whether in the context of disorder disability-related laws or social benefit acts and provisions. Congratulations, in conclusion, for the topic selected to be discussed with eminent scientists today, and look forward to your outcomes that would contribute to TIFF's resource materials, but also to enhancing and strengthening our knowledge of how other hematological diseases are being addressed with regards to these silent but very significant disabilities in this aspect of their journey. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to put a few of our international thoughts into this interactive event today.
Thank you so much. That was really insightful, and thank you for your encouraging words and appreciation for the work that has been done in India by the government of India. And we really look forward to getting better, having patient perspective in mind and making it more comfortable and more so that the people with blood disorder are able to meet their potential. Thank you. Now we have the privilege of I have the privilege of introducing our next speaker.
It's our privilege to introduce Ms. B. Batinga to present her perspective on sickle cell disease from an international disability standpoint. Over to you, Binga ma'am. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I don't know if everybody can hear me. I had just a slide to share. Am I sharing my slide or are you sharing it for me?
Yeah, ma'am, I'm sharing. Please allow me a few seconds.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to bring 2 slides just to show how sickle cell impacts individuals. I wanted to just have an image that shows that, so I only have 2 slides. It's not very long. I wanted to speak on it. Thank you. So, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're joining from. I'm joining from Canada, so it's the morning here, AM. I would like to thank you today for giving me the opportunity to be here with the Global Alliance Cell organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and advocates for equity, thank you very much for being here today and for having us. I would like to, first of all, congratulate you on this event in the search for health equity in the world. When there is collaboration and unity, we always accomplish great things. So I want really to congratulate India on this initiative and all these organizations coming together, especially our member NASCO being part of this initiative. We are very pleased and very proud of the work you've been doing and how active you are on the global network for sickle cell disease. So today, as we gather, can I please have the next slide? Next, please.
Just a second, ma'am. Sorry.
So today, as we gather on World Disability Day, we can shed a light on a health concern that often operates in the shadows of awareness. It is sickle cell disease. So sickle cell disease has, I know most of you, many of you know here, is a genetic blood disorder. It's characterized by the presence of abnormal hemoglobin causing red blood cells to take on a rigid crescent shape, and which block in the blood vessels and create painful crises and also organ damage. Sickle cell disease is really a debilitating disease, one of the most painful diseases in the world, and also a life-threatening disease. So as we speak about it, we don't have the image I wanted to show you, but it's fine. I will continue with that. So what I want to share with you today is the impact of sickle cell disability, drawing my inspiration from the Indian model, where the challenges and triumphs of those living with sickle cell disease and other rare blood disorders like thalassemia and hemophilia are emblematic of a global struggle that we face. Sickle cell disease is not automatically a disability by law in most parts of the world. However, people who experience debilitating symptoms may qualify for disability benefit, and several laws protect them from discrimination. What makes sickle cell disease unique is the dynamic nature, tending to fluctuate in severity over time. So as I heard it in an opening remarks, people can be fine today and the next day or the next month or even years sometimes not be able to function. So how do you go about and live your life with this invisible disability? And I've been looking, and as I look at the Indian model, I just want to focus today, the example I'm going to share with you on that, where the prevalence of sickle cell disease, of course, is significant in India. Individuals face a unique set of challenges that evolves with the dynamic nature of the condition. The burden of the disease extends beyond physiological to economical, social, educational spheres. Many individuals with sickle cell disease find themselves grappling not only with the physical pain and fatigue associated with the condition, but also with societal misconception, stigma that can limit opportunities in life. So this image that I wanted to share is just to show you that sickle cell disease is a multi-system disease. Wherever the blood flows, you may have a crisis. Wherever the blood flows, you may have a complication that will impact your ability to function normally as an individual in society. So the leg ulcers, how can you stand and sustain a full-time job if you can't stand on your feet for months? The fatigue, the anemia, which requires, treatment, and also the lack of treatment options. When you live with sickle cell disease everywhere in the world, we are left with supportive care. And what do we call supportive care? Is hydroxyurea and blood. Yes, recently we've been talking about gene therapy, but it is not coming anytime soon to people in the world. So we have to focus on what we have for now to work. So health intervention, if we look at a model that will work to make sure that we control the lack of support when it comes to these three disorders, we have to look at the health intervention. Access to quality healthcare remains a cornerstone in managing disability with these three diseases. So when I look at in the Indian model, focusing on early detection, comprehensive care, affordable treatment, recognize the dynamic nature of the disease and the need for adaptable healthcare strategies. and also holistic management, including preventive measures, pain management, psychological support, acknowledge always the fluctuating severity of these conditions. So, and then next, awareness and education. The model that we look at here is really focused on the importance of public awareness and education. Dispelling the myth and fostering understanding within communities is key to reducing, of course, again, the stigma and discrimination that people face, specifically when it comes to sickle cell. Educational initiative can reach schools, communities, contribute to the early detection, understanding and support for individuals living with all these challenges. And then economic empowerment. I've heard it here. I've seen comments of parents in the chat here saying, if you have a card for insurance and it's rejected, how do you manage, right? So individuals with this face economic challenges due to the frequent hospitalization, limitation in daily functioning, and most of the time, the lack of support coming from our structure. So this is why I'm really happy to see what is being done in India when the model recognized the need for economic empowerment through vocational training, employment opportunities that accommodate the dynamic nature of the disability. Addressing these economic disparities become even more crucial when considering the fluctuating severity of this condition, enhancing the quality of life for people who are facing varying degrees of impact when it comes to this condition. Now, one of the most important things that we all have to focus on, and I know all the organizations around the table have been doing that, is policy advocacy. And this has been done in India. And we've had many conversations when India stands to eradicate sickle cell. And again, when now with the Disability Act that you've had in your country. I live in Canada and we don't have any. So you really should be very happy of what your government is doing and how they're supporting you. So the importance of policy advocacy to ensure that people receive the attention and support they deserve, recognizing always that life changes all the time for them. It's in a very unpredictable way. Advocating for policies that promote research, improve healthcare infrastructure, and create an inclusive environment is essential for fostering lasting change and adapting to the dynamic challenges posed by these conditions. So as we reflect today on the Indian model that we have in front of us, let us be inspired by the stride made and the challenges we still face, right? And the one we've faced in the past. And it is a call to action today for the government, healthcare professionals, advocates around the table here, and society at large, right, to collaborate in creating a more supportive and inclusive world for those living with these debilitating conditions and chronic conditions. And also, I'm going to repeat myself, the dynamic challenges of sickle cell disease, disability. So I'm not going to be much longer, but in conclusion, let us strive to build upon the lesson learned from your model here that you've had in India so far. And to the NAFCO members, I want you to know, and also to the partners organization, that GASTRO is here to collaborate, to work with you so that we can make the change effective globally by recognizing that the fight against the invisible disability should be a global endeavor requiring compassion, awareness, a commitment to ensuring that no one is left behind in the face of the challenges they are living. And I would like also to invite all our partners to continue to work together and to make sure that by 2030, no one is left behind when it comes to any type of condition that they're living with or any type of challenges. I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, and special thanks that you were able to join despite the difference in time zone. And thank you for the lovely insight in the problems the sickle cell disease patient face. Now we invite our chief guest, Shri Rajesh Agrawal ji, a visionary leader and the Secretary of Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India. Sir, on behalf of the whole group, I extend my sincere thanks for taking out time on Sunday and to encourage us. And I request you to address us and give your encouraging words.
Okay, thank you and good day to everyone. Today we celebrate International Day of Disabilities across the globe. And it is true celebration of differently abled achievers across all sectors and of those who basically work in the what we call the Divyang sector or in the sector of disabilities in the country. And today morning we had just like every year's tradition, which is there since 1969, we had the national awards and the president of the country gave awards to 30 such achievers, many of whom were Divyangs themselves, many who are working in this sector, individuals as well as social organizations. And all the 30 stories are extremely inspirational. I'm secretary of this department since just about a year. And it was a new sector to me when I joined, but I have been lucky to get associated with lots of individuals and organizations in this sector. And I've been meeting lots of people. So I feel we can have some basically meaningful dialogue on this. And the blood disorders traditionally, basically they were looked from the medical angle only. And so health ministry, health sector, that tie-up has been very strong in this. Except for sickle cell, which was sort of handled by basically tribal ministries in states as well as the center. But hemophilia and thalassemia were typically only health sector issues. And it was only in 2016 that when the number of disabilities was expanded from 7 to 21, that these three blood disorders also were added to the list. So primarily, since it is from the health side, basically, we have been trying to work with Ayushman Bharat to ensure that more and more procedures and surgeries, etc., they get covered, which affect our various 21 disabilities. With pharma sector, pharma ministry, we have been engaging with issues like which are the common medicines which are expensive, which are not available as generic medicines, and how to get them into Jan Aushadhi Kendras. And I hope that in next 3-4 months, there will be progress on both these issues. Then the insurance sector issue was very rightly pointed out by one of the speakers, and primarily nudged by basically High Court Delhi rulings, frankly. Our insurance regulator, IRDAI, has been trying to do something, and now we, NITI and IRDAI and a lot of stakeholders, we have had 3-4 meetings actually in last 2 months on these issues. First priority is obviously to get products into the market. It should not happen that as soon as you declare that, okay, you have some disability, the product disappears and you get a message, sorry, you can't get insurance, even on payment basis, basically. And second is basically, for example, when I took private insurance, though I am covered by CGHS, etc. So when I declared I have diabetes, etc., so premium went up by 30%. Okay, that's okay. But here, for example, if you tick that you have some disability, premium sometimes goes up by five times or even 10 times. That's not correct. So we had actually lots of discussions on these with insurance sector, a lot of individual insurance companies with the regulator, so that the premium increase is only reasonable. It's not extortionist to the extent of 5 times or 10 times. And I hope, again, within next 2-3 months, we should be able to see products in the market where insurance premium will be higher than the so-called regular premium, but not so much higher. And then hopefully we will see more and more coverage of persons with disabilities by their companies, whether they are private or government. And so at the moment, government insurance, we have only in national trust schemes which handle only 4 disabilities, primarily on the ID side. And the issue pointed out by our Sickle Cell Association, their federation, was also about awareness. Though the medicine is cheap, which is not a cure, but which actually prevents further disabilities to creep in. So that's not the cure, but those kind of medicines, though they are available cheap, the awareness is less, and probably in certain districts, I'm sure, even the availability will be an issue. Awareness as well as availability. And since these are sort of invisible diseases or disabilities, the issue of awareness from the parent side, and now only last week we had the Minister of WCD, Smriti Irani ji, also kicking off a nationwide campaign of involving Anganwadi workers for early identification. That's important. So my request to all the 3 federations present here is that please have a look at protocols for Anganwadi workers and their training protocols. And if we need to add something on these 3 disorders, we should include that. And then obviously ASHA workers and primary school teachers. That is one group which is present in each and every village of the country. And if they are aware about this stuff, including some cheap medicines, etc., you spoke of, so that will be good. Then comes the very important issue of how to ensure proper education from happening. So whenever you have any episode or you need some extra leave from the school, so how to ensure that without affecting the studies of the children. So whatever, and as we go higher, we call it reasonable accommodations. So basically, whether it is in the exam time, whether it is in the attendance part, whether it is the way you could conduct the exams, and then the reasonable accommodation part becomes more prominent in jobs. Now, for example, many companies, especially the bigger ones and the MNCs, they do have concepts like period leave for women, etc. So how do we ensure that? And in government sector, for example, we have concept of extra casual leave for persons with disabilities, and even childcare leave extra for basically parents. So, and probably something on single parent or for even fathers who may not be in, or one parent which may not be in government service. So something of that sort is also sort of probably will come in future. One issue of UDID was flagged. Last fortnight, we issued the 1 crore, 10 millionth UDID card in the country. So a 2-year blind girl in Karnataka has got that card. And I'm happy that Sunita Mandalji is also here, and we are designing with Health Ministry new assessment protocols for all 21 disabilities, so that the discretion of the doctor is less. For the doctor, the confusion is less. It is easy to sort of assess whether disability is there and what percentage is there, and then issue the UDID card more easily. And we have involved all stakeholders in that. I think the final stakeholder consultation being done, or internal stakeholder consultation being done by my joint secretary, is on 8th of December. And we hope that by December end, we should be able to issue the new set of protocols, which should be easier, and then start training the doctors across the country on this. Then we have been nudging the states to add more and more hospitals to it. And we are telling them that, okay, involve private doctors. For example, even many district hospitals in the country don't have psychologists. So, but the head of the committee can be a government doctor, the CMO or whatever. But lower down, they can involve private doctors. Plus, treating hospitals are now being allowed to give the UDID. So, a person from, let us say, Bihar is getting treated in Delhi. So, the person has a choice to get the UDID card from Bihar or from Delhi, and the number is steadily increasing. We basically made this provision only 3 months ago in the software. The numbers have not gone up dramatically, but they are going up. For example, Nimhans Bangalore has started issuing people from across the country go there for treatment. They have started issuing UDID cards regardless of your domicile. And many states, for example, Gujarat, West Bengal, they have started issuing UDID cards and disability certificates at below district levels, even at taluka levels. And we are telling them, okay, at taluka levels, if you have only orthopedicians, and give locomotor related certificates there, so that at district levels the load decreases and it gets more decentralized. So I hope this will help everyone. And I agree with the speaker that the number of disability certificates issued for sickle cell is much lower than the actual numbers. Again, 2-3 months back, we have released UDID data anonymized on the net. So you can go to data.gov.in, just put UDID in the filter bar, and you will get the CSV or Excel file of data. At the moment, you have district-wise data, district-wise, 21 disability-wise, gender-wise, and age grouping-wise. We have made the age grouping 0 to 6, 6 to 15, and so on, to really anonymize the data. And you got the number. For example, in Jhansi district, for example, hemophilia, males in the range of 15 to 35. There are so many males or so many females. This data is available to everyone in the country. And this is actually very important data. I am sure in next 2-3 years, we'll see many PhD students actually coming up with research on this. It gives a heat map of the country. And for example, we can clearly see if there is environment pollution in some area, the ID cases are more. And we can easily see where institutional deliveries are more, cerebral palsy cases have really come down. And obviously, you will see very high correlation of tribal blocks and sickle cell anemia in the country. So that gives us a handle that where should we spend our energies on. That for this disability, this is a block where we should be trying to do more than others. And also, this can help us, and this can help all the federations also to sensitize the doctors in those districts where these numbers are practically zero. So you can basically lobby for more training of doctors and more certificates be issued there, and so on. And the UDID APIs, we have started opening to a lot of people. For example, to job aggregators, a lot of job aggregators like Youth for Jobs, Smart, Saksham, Sarthak, and Amazon, even private big players. So we have opened up two-way UDID APIs so that any student, for example, or child can go to their website or our website and just type the UDID number or the enrollment number and date of birth. Entire other data comes up, and on consent basis, data gets shared. And so that job portal is actually proving quite popular, though numbers still have to go up. For both the employers to put up their job openings and for the students to say that I want this kind of job, this is my skill set, etc. And I hope in future this will really take off. And this is truly a PPP kind of thing where NGOs, corporate sector, government, and stakeholders come together. then I'm happy that except frankly job reservation 4% thing, which is Parliament's privilege to put those things in, almost every other benefit under the disability sector has started. I don't know whether I should use this word or not, trickling down to the new disabilities which got added in 2016. So the 7 disabilities before 2016 across the country, systems, schemes of central government and state governments are quite well defined for decades. And all that new disabilities which got added, so slowly more and more benefits across the state government schemes and GOI schemes, they've started becoming available. Pensions, more or less the states which offer pension schemes, they are available to these 3 disorders also. And there also I have written to all chief secretaries mentioning, giving an annexure, giving the rates across the country, and rates vary from frankly 400 rupees to 4,500 rupees of pension, depending on the financial viability and the budgeting of the state. And we keep on nudging the states that within their financial viability, how much they can increase. Then in the higher education sector, that's where actually things are good for this sector. That, but again, provided you get reasonable accommodations, you get private facility or whatever facilities or extra time, etc. you need in 10th standard, 12th standard, in higher standards. But those job reservations within that 1%, in higher education, there are no actually sub quotas within that higher education, and that's where the blood disorder people actually are frankly at an advantage compared to other categories like blind, LV, or deaf HI kind of categories. So there is very good scope for young adults with these kind of disorders to get into our higher education institutes and even avail of scholarships. Then ADIP, I will definitely look at the lists which were suggested in 2018, and you said that in December 2021, some things were sort of suggested to be added. So I will definitely have a look at that, because we have done 2 revisions of ADIP, frankly, in last 6-7 months. And ADIP guidelines, new ones, we are releasing hopefully next week, which are quite more flexible than the previous one. And the new additions below 15,000 per beneficiary, that is within the powers of a committee headed by me, so the file doesn't go around much. So any meaningful suggestions made here, I will definitely look into those. And I'm also happy to note, and I was joint secretary in the tribal ministry here 6-7 years ago in 2016, that now the government has actually launched a big sickle cell mission also, and also a separate mission basically for tribal areas, especially in the PVTG areas. And Niti Aayog has also made earlier they had a list of 115 odd aspirational districts. Now they have floated a list of 500 aspiration blocks, and many of them happen to be tribal, and which, so in all of these, I am sure the persons with sickle cell disease or whether they are carriers, there will be some good processes there and schemes, sub schemes coming in there. So these are the things I had jotted down based on whatever speeches I heard, small speeches, and I'm happy that all 3 federations or amalgamation of federations, the Hemophilia Federation of India and the Federation of Indian Thalassemics and the National Alliance of Sickle Cell Organizations. So, and every day, for example, for me, it's a day of learning every day. As I said, I was new to this sector 1 year ago, and every day I pick up a lot of new things, new ideas from all of you. And also it was good to listen to 2 international experts till now. And India obviously has the highest numbers in almost any kind of disability. Primarily because we are at the moment the most populous nation in the world. And one more point from my side, which doesn't affect these three blood disorders, but in India we have more of a medical definition of things. The Western world uses more for functional definition of things, whether to measure, assess the disabilities or to give what kind of reliefs or benefits. We go more by sort of medical thing. Hopefully, there also things will evolve with time. And once again, my best wishes to everyone and congrats to all the organizers for coming together on this International Day of Disabilities and organizing a very meaningful seminar. Thank you so much and best wishes to everyone.
Thank you, sir. Your words were really encouraging, and all the patients, parents, and groups which have joined will be encouraged to hear what is being done. We have taken a lot of your time, but I request for a few more minutes. Our next speaker had some kind request. So now I introduce the next speaker. Mr. Vinita Srivastava, ma'am. She is Advisor Health at the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, Government of India. Thank you, ma'am. Please share your views.
Thank you so much, Amitabh ji, and thank you all for joining us on this day. Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much, and it was very encouraging while listening you, because I have met you and I know how the things have been working out. First of all, I would like to thank you for the certificate, the renewable certificate, which what you did for from 1 year to 3 years. That was a very encouraging for many people in the country, and especially for these blood disorder patients for thalassemia, sickle, and hemophilia as well. Sir, my only humble thing is that we have started with the awareness programs in the states. And we, through Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra, as well as in the states, we are trying to do awareness in the tribal areas as well in other areas as well. So my only concern here is, sir, where the disability department can also join us there, because we are going to the interiors. So maximum, we have trained, we have identified the basically trainers in these states, and these trainers are going to the states. So where we want that Department of Disability also join with us, so that we can go to interiors, whatever the requirements are there, we can identify. If I remember, when you told me first that, Vinita, we have to do a Reiki of these places, where we can see what are the issues, and accordingly the Ministry of Social Justice will take place, will do the needful. So that is one thing, sir, because we have already started with all these works. And second thing, sir, my only humble request for you is this: we can also go ahead with MSME, because what is happening, these people who are getting jobs, job requirements is all, but small scale industries will be a great help, as you have done with pharmaceuticals. You have already done much of the things, but MSME will again be a big help to these patients to start with their livelihoods also, sir, because we feel that independence makes a lot, because these diseases are progressive. We all understand that these diseases are progressive, and because we have already also requested from Ministry of Tribal Affairs to give a permanent disability, which was you have already initiated, sir. That is very kind of you, because our Honorable Minister wrote you, and you know him well. I mean, we want to say that you know him very well, and you have already worked with the tribal department. You understand all the issues as well. So my only concern is here, when we are coming with the permanent disability certificates also, sir. So what you said was very well said. In the district hospitals, it's difficult itself. So can we have a small consortium of doctors who can do this work for us, who can do a great work for, we can train them, we can, and they can go in the sub-districts or the peripheral level to do the needful. So all these things, and sir, we have also come up with the awareness and counseling modules from the Ministry of Health, as well as the management modules for sickle cell anemia, not for all, but for sickle cell anemia also. And my only concern is here is until all the departments join together, because Ministry of Health is being the leading ministry, says hydroxyurea and all has to begin, but somewhere we are also trying to fill gaps, sir. We've tried to fill gaps from the Ministry of Tribal Affairs in the areas concerned. So all these things, if we have a small meeting of the different ministries, sir, under your guidance only, if we can hold a small meeting in next coming week, wherever you are free. So we can come up with some new strategies, which we have also defined for the all the patient concerns. And under your guidance, we can take it up, sir. That is my humble suggestions, sir, and submissions to you, sir, because I have been meeting you. I know you well, sir, because mera to bahut sari cheez hai, because I have been coming to you so many times. Alemco has been very helpful in giving these equipments to in the interiors, and this I mean, people think that you are like a god to them, because once it has been reached to the people, to the last mile, that's very important. So that with those words, sir, I will come and see you personally also. But sir, a small meeting, and I have also discussed with a new secretary who is Mr. Vibhu Nair. He has just joined, sir, on 1st of December. I discussed with this. He said, why not to have a small meeting that we can bring out the strategies which are going to help the society at the large. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And thank
No.
you, sir. Thank you for being with us. I mean, this is a patient group, and all the doctors and patients, we are very kindful to you that you came and told us so many things. It is really nice. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Amitabh.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir, again. Now moving on, I invite Director Professor Sunita Mondal, who is Director Professor of Physiology at Lady Harding Medical College. And as you have already heard, that she has been guiding us, all the disability groups that have been formed for revision. So she has been supervising all this, and a lot of good changes will come up because of her guidance. So I request ma'am to please address the webinar.
Am I audible, Dr. Amita?
Yes, ma'am, you are clearly audible. Yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Amita. My PPT screen, I suppose, is visible also.
Yes, it is visible.
Yes, thank you. So, very good afternoon to all. Respected Shri Rajesh Agarwalji, Secretary, DPWD, and Chief Commissioner of Persons with Disabilities, our eminent international speakers, Dr. Tulika Seth, the advocates of inclusivity, ladies and gentlemen, and other distinguished guests. I welcome to this momentous occasion as we gather to commemorate the International Day for Persons with Disabilities. Today, our focus is on blood disorders, the invisible disability. Often overlooked, these conditions impact millions globally, yet the challenges remain hidden. As we embark on this journey of awareness and understanding, let us reaffirm our commitment to breaking down barriers, fostering an environment of equal opportunities. So I thank the organizers for inviting me to this talk, and the topic of my today's presentation is the need for revision of scoring guidelines for disabilities under the RPWD Act 2016. RPWD Act 2016 was enacted to give effect to the United Nations Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And the Chapter 10 on the certification of specified disabilities under point 56 states that the central government shall notify guidelines for the purpose of assessing the extent of specified disability in a person. On 4th January 2018, the Ministry of Social Justice, Department of Empowerment for Persons with Disabilities, notified the guidelines on the assessment of the specified disabilities. Now, first, let's take a look at the international standards for the classification. Most often, we find that in countries internationally, the International Classification of Functioning of Disability and Health, that is the ICF classification, is used. Also, many a country uses the WHO Disability Assessment Schedule, that is called often as HUDA's 2 version. In US, the Comprehensive Guidelines on Disability Evaluation was developed by the American Medical Association, and it is periodically being reviewed and updated. What is our Indian scenario? Disability evaluation is an evolving and challenging area in our country. It also deserves greater importance since disability certificate and the subsequent UDID card is the most important document that a person with disability needs at any stage in life, particularly for availing the provisions under the Act. The guidelines in India needs to be revised to bring them in consonance with the global trends, changing concepts, definitions, models, and assessment guidelines in the Disability and Rehabilitation Center. Now, what we find in our country, most of the assessment guidelines of 2018 are basically impairment based. They are dependent on the biomedical features, and accordingly, the different ranges are given. In 2022, September, a committee was constituted under Director General of Health Services for reviewing the existing guidelines for purpose of assessing the extent of specified disabilities under the RPWD Act 2016, 49 of 2016. And there were 8 subcommittees which were formed for locomotor disability, visual impairment, hearing impairment, speech and language disability, intellectual disability, specific learning disorder, autism spectrum disorder, mental illnesses, chronic neurological conditions, disability caused due to blood disorders, and multiple disabilities. The different subcommittees consisted of members from institutions of repute and represented from the different regions of the country. The committee members tried to standardize the guidelines and align it with the RPWD Act 2016. Also, they looked into the criteria for assessing a range of disabilities. Moreover, the appendices and the performers for thorough evaluation has also been included. And the roles of the medical board or authorities in the disability evaluation and certification has also been recommended. Now, why needed? Why do we need to revise the guidelines? The need to revise the guidelines for evaluation of disabilities in India arises from several factors that aim to enhance the effectiveness, accuracy, inclusivity of evaluation process, And some of the key reasons would include clearer recommendations, wherein we have made recommendations in the area more objective and evidence-based, strengthening the evidence supporting suggestions for better clarity. Also, we tried to look into a whole person perspective, that is, reflect the percentage of disability in relation to the entire person. Though I would agree that we have not been able to achieve this completely. This was very much needed because disability is an experience which affects an whole individual. And moreover, we need to consider the environmental factors also. Now, another reason why there was a need to come out with reviewing the guidelines was addressing the current guideline limitation. As I said, in our country, we do it based on the impairment, and the focus is on specific body segments, which can be limiting. So we have tried to address this issue also in many of the disabilities, but maybe not all. And also we tried to look into the best of global practices. We explored the recent guidelines and the best practices from various countries. We considered concepts like ICF and HUDAS and also the American guidelines. So this would enhance clarity. We have tried to specify the time frame for requesting the certification after the onset of disability, and also establish the clear guidelines for periodic reviews. We have given inclusivity and accuracy, which plays a crucial role in determining the qualification, who qualifies as a person with disability. Moreover, reviewing is also required to keep up with the advances in medical knowledge and technology, which we know is evolving every day. And this may lead to our new understanding of the disabilities or changes in the assessment and diagnosis of certain conditions. Moreover, with the advent of technology and assistive devices, which evolves over time, there was a need to review it. And of course, the legal compliances, many a times there have been references from the legal experts to look into the assessment criteria. The most important reason for reviewing was the feedback from stakeholders. There were several input from persons with disabilities, patients themselves, advocacy groups, medical professionals, and other stakeholders like the legal or the court cases. However, as I said earlier, that we have not been able to switch over to ICF or HUDAS. And the reason being that we require socio-cultural adaptation in all major languages of India. As you know, that India being diverse, not only in sense of culture, religion, languages, so we need to have all the performers in vernacular languages. That was a challenge. We also require further original research for feasibility, applicability, and acceptability in prevalent Indian conditions, wherein the different types of the individual disabilities, multiple disabilities, and the establishment of cutoffs can be done. Also, we need to carry out further research, as Madam Vinita was telling, that we also need data on the different urban, rural and tribal population to come to a cutoff or establish a cutoff for the diverse disabilities. What can be done in the future? We would recommend future research and suitable training programs all across India so that we can have a uniform pattern of evaluation. With this, I would end my talk by quoting Stephen Hawking. However difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. Unquote. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That was very enlightening, and we have learned a lot under your guidance. Thank you. Our next speaker needs no introduction. International expert of the subject, a visionary, a great mentor, true leader, and chairperson for the subcommittee for revision of blood disorders, disability related to blood disorders. Dr. Tulika Seth is professor of hematology at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and ma'am will be talking about the proposed changes to the existing guideline. Ma'am.
Thank you so much. Can I share my slides, please? Okay, so.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, see. Okay, so I hope you can see my slides. Are they visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, with the guidance and leadership of Dr. Sunita Mondal and many inputs from Dharyal sir, who will be speaking after this, and Dr. Sanjay Wadhwa, who could not join with us, and a excellent group of eminent experts and the patient advocates, we had a lot of deliberations, and we tried to keep the philosophy of trying to make an equal playing field for our patients and the ICF, and as many things as we could, understanding that obviously we will not be able to do a perfect job, but rather than making it simply a list of medical tests, we wanted to actually be able to create a scoring that would take into the account the patient's abilities and their challenges with the environment. And so we have tried to make the new proposed guidelines as easy to interpret as possible so that there would not be any confusion between doctors who had been doing it, and to make it more objective and reproducible. As some of the speakers have highlighted, there have been court cases where the people were given different scores, and those kind of things make it very unpleasant. So we wanted to avoid that. We also wanted it to be very holistic. So it was a complete assessment of the patients, not simply some tests. And also we know that some of these tests may not be available in smaller and remote places. So again, we are actually a bias. We wanted to standardize the scoring of different organ systems and look at the impact of these organ disabilities on the quality of life. So basically, we were centering on functionality, and we wanted to harmonize the scoring guidelines for all three of the disorders, even though they are diverse, so that there would not seem to be any bias between the patients. So we looked at a lot of different domains. The idea was to make sure that all of the domains could be objectively and clearly assessed. We wanted to avoid any ambiguity so that the doctors, when they're giving these guidelines, they know exactly how to score. We wanted the scores to be in whole numbers, not in ranges. So some of the previous guidelines had given a range, which is very difficult because that introduces subjectivity. And we also didn't want it to make it so complicated that you had like decimals and things. That we wanted it very simple. We did not advocate the need for having special tests. These special tests would only be required if there was further assessments, but for a basic benchmark, very simple diagnostic tests were there. And we wanted to give a very clear summary of the scoring, again, to avoid ambiguity and to make it very reproducible and simple. So they're looking at the old, we made some changes also into the type of the certificate. So the old, the earlier guidelines, the certificate was only valid for a year, but with the wonderful guidance of all of the eminent experts and the ministry involved, we wanted to have a permanent certificate that would fit the criteria, because these conditions are permanent. These are not conditions that are fleeting, and the patient will only progress and worsen in the disability rather than improve. Though, of course, we know now that there are going to be curative things like gene therapy and BMT. So we also put in a caveat that if patients underwent these newer modalities, then whenever these are available, then the certificate would have a different validity. The certifying authority, as Rajesh sir highlighted, now again, the chief district medical officer is obviously the chairperson, but the treating doctors have an important role. And again, if private doctors are required, that can also be done, because we kind of left it a little bit open that additional experts can be called. So again, trying to expand the access so that patients anywhere can get their certificates as easily as possible was our goal. The documentation for the benchmark, we've made it very, very simple. So all the patients, for example, this is for thalassemia, all the patients will have a CBC and an HPLC. If they don't have one of the child pre-transfusion, they can get one of the parents. So again, as simple as possible, and the usual patient diary that we have for transfusion is the only other supportive documentation that we would need. For sickle cell disease patients, again, a very simple diagnostic test to diagnose sickle cell, and some documentation either of a crisis or hospitalization or other daycare records, which will obviously be there for all of our patients. So just a very simple basic guidelines to make it as easy as possible. For our hemophilia patients, the basic diagnostic test for the hemophilia patients is always a APTT test and a factor assay, because without these tests, we can't diagnose them and treat them. In case they don't have a documentation, we can do a washout period and repeat the tests, and then a simple documentation for bleeding, which is going to be there in all of our patients. So just to make it as easy and as accessible as possible, we have avoided very fancy tests, which may not, as I said, be available for the older patients. Now, when we're looking at the scoring, the older guidelines for sickle cell centered around blood transfusion, but we know that many sickle cell disease patients in India are not on regular transfusions. So the severity was basically based depending on the diagnosis, where they would get a benchmark simply by the diagnostic score that they have. And then additional symptoms, like we've introduced a new pain score that we think is going to be very important for patients. And we've looked at the functional ability, which is imparted by problems of the liver, kidney, bones, etc. So the assessment can be done very simply by most doctors, whether they are in a remote small hospital or whether they are in a tertiary large center. So avoiding the need for many investigations in these patients. And similarly, in thalassemia also, we have a very simple benchmark, and then the additional scoring is done again, looking at the simple functional assessments and the patient's symptoms, looking at the functional ability problems which are caused by liver dysfunction, heart or lung problems, and with the addition of a pain score, which is again a novel thing, but something that we felt would definitely benefit the patients. For hemophilia, the older guideline really only looked at the factor level, and there were many other issues related to different kinds of bleeds. Here we have given a lot of importance to the patient and their bleeding phenotype. We have also included all patients with less than 5% factor and included very simple assessments. We've incorporated a pain score because we know that a lot of patients live with pain, and we've given due attention to additional other complications. So we hope that this proposed guideline, which, as Rajesh sir said, hopefully will come out in the next month or two, will help in simplifying the assessments. We also know that there are some patients who have multiple disabilities in addition to the blood disorder disabilities, and there are clear-cut instructions on how to calculate the total disability score, and that will be done according to the multiple disability assessments. A separate board, of course, would be needed for these patients because they have additional investigations that would be required depending on the type of additional disabilities they have. So in summary, we took in a lot of the criticisms of the previous guidelines, and we understood the needs of the stakeholders. We had multiple small and big meetings. We wanted to make this as simple and as accessible and reproducible. And mostly, I think what we really were looking for was fairness and justice. And we're very appreciative of the DGHS and Dr. Mondal for having this opportunity. And we are definitely open to any changes. And we are hoping, and we've written also, for expansion of this for other blood disorders as well, which also we feel would benefit from this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. We have questions in chat box. We will be compiling it, and in subsequent webinar, or we'll get back to the questions which has been asked, because we have not kept a slot for answering the audience questions in this webinar. So thank you, ma'am. I think most of the whoever has heard this new proposed guideline will know that most of their problems will be taken care of once the new guideline comes into notification. So our next speaker is Sri T.D. Dharyal sir, former State Commissioner for Person with Disabilities, GNCTD, and a long list of other affiliations, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. And since you are the resource person for even the RPWD Act, we don't know anybody to ask even when we are working for the division. So I will request you to also touch on the RPWD Act 2016, apart from the philosophy behind these changes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Amitabh, and all of the eminent experts, persons, audience, parents, and the patients. Secretary to PWD, Dr. Rajesh Agarwal. It's a great opportunity for me to interact, discuss, and share whatever experiences that I have. I will touch upon the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, which is a right-based legislation in our country as far as the rights of persons with disabilities are concerned. This act has been enacted to give effect to the UNCRPD, and therefore it assumes much more importance than simple eyes behold. Before 2016, the blood disorder, as you know, were not included as disabilities. Many a time, people think that even after 2016, when there is no provision for reservation in jobs, what is the benefit? There are a number of benefits. In short, that today with this act, which is a right-based, which is mandatory, and there is provision in the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act for penalties. in case of any contravention by any person or any organization, the organization of the person can be punished, fined, jailed. Without going to details of what those provisions are, the first and foremost benefit is that any person with disability, with or without benchmark disability, that is 40%, cannot be discriminated on the ground of disability. That is the biggest, be it education, be it health, anything, any right. Second, any person with blood disorder also with benchmark disability that 40% or more of any of the 3 disabilities is entitled to get reservation in admissions to higher education. Then all education facilities in an inclusive setup. As the secretary said, the pension, earlier it wasn't there. It's very important for those who really need the support of the legislation, particularly the population that lives in the remote rural areas and are poor, including in urban areas. So for them, a small amount of the benefit also becomes important. Here, I would, then of course, aids and appliances. Depending upon the income status, we have ADIP scheme, we have scholarship schemes, we have accessibility SIPTA scheme, we have Deen Dayal Upadhyay rehab scheme. So those benefits are now available to persons with blood disorder also, which was not there. Now the question comes, as a speaker said that sickle cell disease affected people are not getting disability certificate. There was a some chat box also a comment that they are not somewhere in Nagpur or somewhere not getting disability. The doctors say we cannot get 40% disability for blood disorder. As Dr. Tulika said, we have made it very easy. A doctor cannot simply say you can't get the disability certificate. And therefore, unless you have a disability certificate, you can't get UDID card. So that also becomes very important. So primary requirement is getting a disability certificate for blood disorder. So these guidelines, as these are simple, easy to understand, and also make it easy for the doctors to assign percentages, become very important and critical for certification as well as UDID, and hence for availing any benefit under the Act or any, say, scheme like income tax or other. Now, the philosophy. This is about the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act. Now, the philosophy of that this subcommittee followed. We are very fortunate to be under the guidance of all the experts, Dr. Tulika, Dr. Amitabh, and Dr. Sopa, and all, that we all agreed that we must harmonize the guidelines for assessment and certification of disabilities, and hence assigning percentages to disability with the definition of Persons with Disabilities Act. Now, this is the critical thing which many people haven't understood. The paradigm shift in the Rights of Persons with Disabilities is the definition of Persons with Disabilities Act, that which says that person with disability as a person with a long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairment, which in interaction with barriers hinders his full and effective participation in society equally with others. So functional, we have given emphasis on functionality, not impairment, as Madam Sunita also said. So therefore, it's our effort was to harmonize these. Earlier, the guidelines were not harmonized in this manner. Guidelines had a different criteria which did not match with the definition of person with disabilities in the Act or UNCRPD. The subcommittee also looked at ICF, which also says the same thing, that it depends on the context, it depends on the place and the facilities, the accessibility that is available. It's evolving. If the facilities and accessibility is better, perhaps the percentage of disability would be less. The impact of the impairment on functionality would be less. So the committee has tried its best to harmonize this so that the true assessment and percentage is assigned to the limitation that is caused by the impairment to a person's functionality. So that is what the philosophy. And of course, we have said so in the recommendations that it is not possible to make the guidelines 100% objective. There will be subjectivity. But then these guidelines would give an idea, float an idea, that if you make the life of a person with disability in general and the persons with blood disorder easier, more independent, by giving, with the help of technology, assistive devices and all things, perhaps the total economic burden on the government and the society and the family will be much less. The percentage, say, many people would not be 40% assessed as 40% or more, and hence the burden reduces and the person also becomes more functional, more effective, and can stand on his or her own. We also took note of the fact that a person with blood disorder may have many more additional disabilities. It could be locomotive, it could be neurological, it could be anything else. The guidelines would, the overall certification, of course, would depend upon the dominant disability, but the percentages that would be assigned to those additional disabilities like locomotive would follow the guidelines that are devised by the Committee on Locomotor Disability. And those guidelines, assessment guidelines or methods would be used by all the, for all the disabilities. So that is what we did. The issues that people have come just while on way home from the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. I received a call, a message first, and then I called back. A person, some Yadav, I think, a NEET aspirant in a coaching institute in Kota, who belongs to Gwalior. He said he is having ankylosing spondylitis. And he is having serious episodes of pain. When he went to the when his father went and consulted the doctors in Gwalior, in the district, they said he cannot be, they would not be able to give any disability certificate to this person because for pain there is no guideline. Whereas we all understand, and the people who are in this webinar know that for pain there is percentage. Even earlier guidelines were there. So therefore, in conclusion, what I thought is a lot of awareness among the certifying authorities, lot of awareness among the patients, parents, community is required. The training is required. Without that, it will not happen. Many people will silently suffer. And with these guidelines, perhaps the life of people with disabilities and in general, and the people with blood disorder or silent disability will be, I think, resolved. That's what I believe. I'm very optimistic about it, the way the government is taking it forward. And with this, I conclude. And if there are, I think there is no session for question and answer. So chat box we'll see, and then you can email, we'll respond. Thank you. I don't know whether I kept the time.
No, sir, perfect. Thank you, sir. It's always mesmerizing to hear to what you have to say. So we have already heard Vinita ma'am special request to our chief guest. We have a special address from Vinita ma'am now for the webinar participants. Vinita ma'am, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Amitabh. And it was nice basically hearing everybody. I mean, hearing Dr. Tolika, Dr. Mandal about the disability, what criteria we are coming up, and it's going to help the patient at large. And you have been a part of it. Yourself has been a part to it, and many people like Ritika and everybody. But the concern which I was just looking at the concerns which I was very worried about, that the awareness is one of the part which is very important, where everybody needs to join hands. Now it's time when every ministry, it's not only Ministry of Tribal Affairs or Health, but every ministry needs to join hand for these things. Otherwise, it will be difficult. Like if we talk about, while I was requesting sir about the small meeting to be held about, where I am talking about the 7 or 8 ministries who has to come together to work for it, for the patient itself. If I say how we are going to do it, like I'm talking about, if we are talking about the medications, yes, Ministry of Health is there. But if we talk about awareness, another part, we have Panchayati Raj, we have Rural Development, we have Ministry of Tribal Affairs. They can do a better job than anybody for the awareness part and the counseling as well. Then for the Ministry of WCD, if I talk about that early detection, when we're talking about the ladies, I was finding some chats that there is a menorrhagia and all these problems are existing. But now where we are going to go, where are these women are going to go? So our Anganwadi needs to be trained for this. At least there should be a referral system for there. So that is very important, which within 1 week or so, I will try to get these things together to go for basically a better implementation plans for the states. Mainly the implementation is the issue, so that we are talking about. The third one thing I was hearing about the UDID cards, which sir also addressed. But here I will also request sir also, and in our implementation plan, we will try to get these UDIDs at the peripheral level also, which needs to be done. The people over there, as it is written there, that some people can be special MIT and they can be trained for that. A small unit can be built up for these special disability certificates. Not necessary that only if the CMS is then only it can be done. But if we have to do it at the PC, why the patient has to travel? One concern is if a patient has to travel, then it's something we are lacking about. So the government is very inclined to have these facilities at the peripheral level also, and we are planning for it. So I would like to know, just want to tell you that these facilities will be at the peripheral level, where we are also getting involved, because Ministry of Tribal Affairs, as I spoke earlier also, that our Honorable Minister wrote for the permanent disability for all these 3 blood disorders, as I said, and that's why we came up with this committee in the Ministry of Health. This was Ministry of Tribal Affairs initiated, because we were facing problem for the tribals. But what we felt is not only for the tribals, but it is for others as well. So when we do any work which is done, it should be done in a consolidated manner, which is the frequent visits to the hospitals, again a challenge for these tribal people. Everybody, I said, for the patients. So frequent visits makes a lot of expenses, which are hidden expenses actually. These are hidden expenses which we don't even bother about. What are they? So when sir was saying about the insurance and other things, these what sir said, ki pension is there. Some of the states have started, like only Haryana, which I came to know. Haryana has started with a small pension, and in Odisha, we are giving a small 2 crore amount of around 500 rupees to each patient while they visit to the hospitals. So some time of implementation should be done at the state level, which is very important, because these patients who are coming from a very weaker background, I mean, it impacts their livelihood also. It's not only their health, but health impacts the livelihood. So all these things have to be kept in mind while designing the things. And drugs are being available, but we are also, as sir said, ki Jan Aushadhi Crane should have all these facilities. But for hydroxyurea, so we can plan it out, or we are also doing the SOPs. What should be the SOP for the giving the hydroxyurea, but not for other drugs. Thalassemia drugs is fine, but not for the drugs for like hemophilia is difficult. So those things, the training part, which is missing, which is very much missing, I should say, because our doctors in the peripheries are not aware, still not aware about these facts and factual. So my only concern while I'm talking about these things, that we can list it out. You can, a small gist of what exactly has to be done can be sent to us. I mean, and I will be taking up to all the ministries. So we consider, and you guys will be the partner to it, because everybody needs joint hands. That's very important. So this is very important that way. About the gene therapy, as we have talked about, we have started gene therapy in IGIB, that is for sickle cell disease, and especially again for thalassemia as well, which will really take time. I understand that, because it is only on the basically very initial basis. So this is going to take time. And the more important thing which I am finding it, that 5 things needs to be taken very clearly while we talk about. First thing is awareness. Awareness about everybody, including doctors, paramedicals, general population, school teachers. I mean, I have visited some schools in the interiors, and in sickle cell disease, what needs to be done is people need more of the hydration. Child goes to the washroom so many times, and he has been stopped for this. And he cannot, I mean, because the teachers are not aware. So the issues are. So I am just trying to convey the message that we need to have a very, whatever we have decided, though we are talking about RPWD Act in 2016, I would like to thank here, I mean, like Rajesh Agrawal sir there, where we also had Love Verma sir over that time. Because he was Secretary Health, we started this interventions. Dr. Tulika might be remembering. We started with the Shobha Tuli ma'am was also there. We started with these interventions of hemoglobinopathies. And 2016, our guidelines released, and he was a part of it. Actually, Ravarma sir was there at time, Manoj Jhalani sir, Lavarma. And then finally, he moved to Ministry of Social Justice. And that's why this came in 2016, because I was a part of it. He asked me to write from the Ministry of Health, and then they did it. So it was a great time when these 2 secretaries, I mean, I should always remember that. And when this permanent will come up, we will always remember Rajesh sir for that. So these 2 things were done at that time. So my only concern is that whatever we are doing, but we need to have some enclosure at the back of the RPWD Act, that these things also has to be taken up. These are essentials. Like we can write only these are essential and we can take it up. So in this way, we will be able to help the patients at a larger scale. That is my concern about what we as a ministry also, I'm part of it, and from the part of patient side also, because I have been involved with the patient group so many times, and it's always a pleasure to work with them, because we learn from them. It's not only that we know everything. It's not never like that. I know I have so many teachers over here who are already sitting here, and I can say that my doctors are my teachers also. So these people have taught me, the patients and the doctors both have taught me how to go ahead with that. So with these words, I will put my words to the end. But thing is that we need to start the work while we are defining these things. And sir also said, because we are going to meet maybe on Tuesday. So we will, whatever is been said, and if it can be listed out, it will be very helpful. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for have a wonderful workshop. This was very nice and very much needed also. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You have always supported and motivated us. Thank you so much for it. We heard from international bodies on thalassemia and sickle cell. We also have a small video from Mr. Cesar, who is the president of Hemophilia Federation International. Upasna, if you can play the video, it's a short video.
Yeah, sure, sir.
I want to say solidarity greeting during the celebration of the International Day of People with Disabilities. We must not forget that hemophilia, along with other related bleeding disorders, is experiencing a time of optimism, protection for the future, and a therapeutic revolution that even allows patients to think about a possible and near cure. But nevertheless, the lack of equity in access to medicines and treatment, along with the consequences of poor care in the past, brings visible and very pronounced consequences to individuals living with disabilities. I came from visiting a hospital where I shook hands with an 8-year-old child being treated with cryoprecipitate, which could mean that he was contaminated, or if he continues like this, he will be contaminated with a virus such as hepatitis C or HIV. This must never happen again anywhere. Government must quickly take full responsibility to prevent these cases.
So now we come to the one of the most important part of this webinar, because everything we are doing is from the patient perspective point of view. So we have a panel discussion now, which will be moderated by Ms. Anubha Taneja Mukherjee, who is Member Secretary of Thalassemia India. Anubha, I request you to introduce your panelists and have the panel discussion now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amitabh. A very good evening to all of you. Greetings and salutations are in order to Mr. Rajesh Agarwal, and I'm extremely grateful that you are sparing your valuable time, that too on a Sunday. Thank you very much, sir. With that, I would like to introduce the topic of the panel discussion. It's going to be a very short panel, but a very focused one. So the topic is the way forward for persons with blood disorders, from disability to full potential. And my esteemed panelists are Mr. Anuj Vadera. Anuj is co-founder for Thalassemia Patients Advocacy Group under Thalassemics India. My second panelist is Mr. Lalit Kishore Pargi. Lalit is founder, Sickle Cell Saksham Rajasthan Foundation. And my third panelist is Mr. Harshal Kale. Harshal is Regional Manager, South Asia and East Asia, WFH. So before I start the panel discussion, I would request all my panelists to be extremely brief, because we know that many points have been covered already. I would also like to share with this gathering here, and this is also for the benefit of my panelists, that recently, as I think 29th November, the 18th National Review Meeting of Chief Commissioners was held, and this was chaired by Mr. Agarwal himself. And I think it's very timely we are having this panel discussion today, because during the review meeting, which was presided over by Mr. Agarwal, all these topics were discussed. The implementation, the section-wise implementation of RPWD Act, the harmonization of the guidelines, etc. So I think whatever suggestions that you make today will be very helpful for Mr. Agarwal and his team, who will be eventually or are in the process of sending the recommendations to the state governments. So with that, I would like to start with Lalit. Lalit, my question to you would really be, because our topic is more about the way forward. It's not really about what happened in the past. But I want to understand from you that moving from disability to ability, to realizing the full potential of an individual person with disability. What do you think is lacking, and how do you think can that be addressed? Over to you, Lalit.
थैंक यू मैम। मैं पहले तो आप सभी का धन्यवाद करना चाहूँगा। आज इंटरनेशनल डिसेबिलिटी डे पे मैं अपनी बात रखना चाहूँगा। पहले तो मैं गवर्नमेंट को थैंक यू करना चाहूँगा कि सिकल सेल डिजीज़ को RPWD एक्ट 2016 में शामिल किया, जिसके तहत हमें एजुकेशन में रिजर्वेशन और एग्ज़ाम में जो एक्स्ट्रा टाइम मिलता है वो हमारे लिए काफ़ी इम्पोर्टेंट है। और एससीडी पेशेंट जो होते हैं उन्हें जॉइंट्स पेन और इसकी प्रॉब्लम होती है। शायद हीमोफीलिया और थैलेसीमिया में ये नहीं होता है, पर हम इसका स्वागत करते हैं। हम अपनी बात करना चाहेंगे मेडिकल केयर, एजुकेशन और ट्रीटमेंट पे। उसकी उपलब्धता, निरंतरता और अवेयरनेस ये हमारे लिए मस्ट है। और हाइड्रेक्स यूरिया ये ज़्यादा मस्ट है। अगर हमारी जान बची रही तो मतलब हमारे लिए ये काफ़ी बेहतर होगा अगर हमारे लिए मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट और जो अवेयरनेस है इसके बारे में कुछ वर्क हो जाए। थैंक यू।
Thank you,
Anuja
Lalit.
ma'am, you are on mute.
For the benefit of everybody, I just want to quickly translate what he said. So, he has thanked the government for including hemophilia, for including sickle cell in the list of RPWD Act. And he's essentially talking about hydroxyurea. I think something that Gautamji also spoke about. And he's basically saying that if our lives remain intact, there can be nothing better than that. So I'm assuming that आपका सजेशन ललित ये है कि हाइड्रोक्सी यूरिया की अवेलेबिलिटी पे अगर फोकस आए तो दैट विल बी योर सजेशन।
Yes, ma'am.
With that, I would like to move to Anuj. Anuj, what do you think is required in terms of way forward?
Yeah, thank you, Anuba. I think for a thalassemia, two things are very important. One is adequate and safe blood, and second is chelation, right? If these two things are taken care by the government through RPWD Act and other policies in NHM and rare diseases, right? So then most of the problems of all thalassemics would be sorted out. So when we talk about chelation, right? Why chelation is important? Because it can give rise to many other problems, be it diabetes, growth failure, heart problems, osteoporosis, and this list is infinite, right? If you don't get chelators regularly, there will be cumulative problems over the time. Then if you talk about RPWD Act, right? The Chapter 5, Section 24 of RPWD Act, which is Social Security, this has a free provision for drugs, and chelators should be available to everyone here. But the real situation is that the supply of chelators in government hospitals is really ad hoc. Sometimes they are available and sometimes they are not, but they are needed lifelong without interruption. So that is the main problem. Then secondly, thalassemics are having transfusions every 2 to 3 weeks, and there is a very high risk of transfusion transmissible infections in thalassemia population. And this is also true to some extent for SCD because they are also having transfusions. So as per many studies, it has been pointed out that 30 to 35% of thalassemia patients in India are having TTIs, which is a very high number, right? So when we often go to government and speak about NAT, we get a reply that the false positives are high, that's why we can't do NAT, or maybe the number of patients are very less, that's why we don't want to go for NAT. But these arguments are not doing justice to Indian thalassemia patients who are suffering and not even getting basic safe blood as part of their treatment. So I would request Mr. Rajesh, Honorable Minister, to
Secretary,
take
sir.
care of these 2 points, right?
ensure uninterrupted supply of life-saving drugs, chelators in our hospitals, and make sure that every thalassemia gets NAP tested blood, so that he is not dealing with hepatitis or HIV
Sure.
or any other problem. He just has to take care of thalassemia. Thank you.
थैंक्स अनुज आई थिंक बड़ा खूबसूरत इत्तेफाक है कि 18th नेशनल रिव्यू मीटिंग जो हाल ही में हुई थी, जिसके बारे में मैं जिक्र कर रही थी, उसमें ये सब पॉइंट्स कवर्ड है, यू नो, रिडक्शन ऑफ कॉस्ट बर्डन विद रिगार्ड टू मेडिसिन्स, एंड देन they have also spoken about implementation, etc. So I think whatever you just mentioned is fairly and squarely in the radar of what the government is planning. With that, I will move to Harshal. Harshal, what are your inputs on the requirements for way forward?
Yeah, thanks, Anuba. And I do want to express my gratitude to the government for acknowledging the issues for all the bleeding disorders and starting the positive steps towards our needs. So as far as hemophilia is concerned, timely access to the prophylaxis treatment is crucial, and having this treatment available at home is very imperative, because when people and individuals with bleeding disorders face issues like other disabilities, they miss out on school, they miss out on work, they miss out on many things. And reaching to the treatment center sometimes is 50 kilometers to 300 kilometers. In that, it aggravates their injury or the bleed and puts more pressure on their joint or any other place where they are having the bleed. So when individuals with bleeding disorders receive proper care, they can truly unleash their full potential. And this is very well exemplified by a person called Chris Bombardier, who has conquered all 7 summits, including Mount Everest. So which shows if the proper treatment is available, then people with hemophilia can live a normal life. So, and the impact of the bleeding disorders is not only on the individual, it goes beyond the individual. It impacts the family in terms of their finances, their jobs, their mental health, so and so forth, as it was rightly pointed out by someone. So my request to the government would be to help avail the prophylaxis treatment, as well as basic rights such as insurance and job reservation, which was touched upon by Honorable Secretary C. Rajesh Agarwal sir. So these are important issues which we look forward that would be noted down.
Thank you so much, Harshal. And since you mentioned job reservation, everybody else also did. मुझे याद आ रहा है कि अभी थोड़े दिन पहले दिल्ली जुडिशियल सर्विसेज का एक नोटिफिकेशन निकला था, एंड शायद सेक्रेटरी साहब को वो यहाँ पे हैं, तो आई थॉट आई वुड यूज दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी, और उसमें आई डोंट वांट टू डिस्क्लोज माय एज, बट मेरी बहुत पीछे रह गई है एज उसमें पार्टिसिपेट करने की, बट मैंने नोटिस किया कि उसमें विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड और कुछ और ऐसे थे जो इवन इस एज में भी, अगर मैं विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड रही होती या कुछ और डिसेबिलिटी में हुई होती, तो इवन इस एज में मैं दिल्ली जुडिशियल सर्विसेज में शायद बैठ सकती थी. और ये देख के मुझे बहुत ही दुख भी हुआ और थोड़ा अजीब भी लगा कि क्यों हम लोग जॉब रिजर्वेशन में नहीं है. So I think that is a collective suggestion to you, Mr. Agarwal, that if on the job side also, in addition to the education side, some leverage could be given to blood disorders, that would be really, really good. My second question, and unfortunately we don't have the time, so this would be the last question. The second question is more on the prevention and treatment side, because अभी तक जितने लोगों ने बात किया है मैनेजमेंट के बारे में ज्यादा फोकस किया गया है कि यूडीआईडी कैसे बनना चाहिए और क्या क्या बेनिफिट्स मिलने चाहिए, बट हमें ये भी पता है कि गवर्नमेंट अगर प्रिवेंशन पे ध्यान देगी तो उतना ही पैसा बचेगा टू स्पेंड ऑन मैनेजमेंट. इन दैट सेंस प्रिवेंशन, ट्रीटमेंट एंड मैनेजमेंट ऑल आर कनेक्टेड. सो इस बारे में आपके विचार में जानना चाहूंगी कि डिसेबिलिटी एक्ट के अंदर आप प्रिवेंशन और ट्रीटमेंट ऑफ ब्लड डिसऑर्डर्स के बारे में क्या रिकमेंडेशन देना चाहेंगे एंड हर्षल इफ आई कैन स्टार्ट विद यू ऑन दैट.
Thank you, Anubha. Definitely, prevention is very important topic for us as a community also. And in my opinion, genetic counseling is one of the key areas where the government can invest upon, start many initiatives, and educate, inform, aware the families about the different options available. We as a community always encourage and educate the families on carrier detection, prenatal diagnosis, and always educate them about the options they have to exercise. So I think if that is something can be taken further by the government, that would really help in terms of the prevention. It is also important to create larger awareness amongst the medical fraternity, so that when we talk about the prevention, I also mean prevention in terms of further deformities in the joint or prevention of life-threatening bleed. So that aspect can also be taken care if we focus upon the education of the medical fraternity in the district level and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshal. Lalit, your views, आपके prevention और treatment पे कोई विचार RPWD Act के context में?
मैम सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट चीज़ है अवेयरनेस. अगर कम्युनिटी में अवेयरनेस है इस ब्लड डिसऑर्डर्स को लेके, न्यूबॉर्न स्क्रीनिंग से हम लोग पता कर सकते हैं, प्रीनेटल डायग्नोसिस से हम लोग प्रिवेंट कर सकते हैं, और जेनेटिक काउंसलिंग जैसे हर्षल जी ने बताया है वो बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है. और एक अवेयरनेस बहुत बड़ा पार्ट है. अगर ब्लड डिसऑर्डर्स में अगर अवेयरनेस की जाए तो हो सकता है हम मतलब इनसे प्रिवेंट हो सकते हैं, और आगे जो ये मास लेवल पे जिस तरह से अभी डाटा आ रहे हैं वो ना आए. थैंक यू मैम.
Over to you, Anuj, for your comments on prevention and treatment.
Yeah, thank you, Anuba. So I would like to highlight here that in RPWD Act, Chapter 5 again, and Section 25, it talks about prevention. The healthcare section talks about prevention, and it says that government will invest heavily on educating children in like schools and health centers, and there would be like television campaigns and radio campaigns, but nothing of that sort is happening on the ground actually. So we have not seen a single advertisement from ministry on how couples can go for their screening and ensure that their children don't have thalassemia and SCD, right? So these problems are happening on the ground because there is absolutely no awareness among couples. And thalassemia and SCD children are still being born, which is 100% preventable. So this is a sad like part of the story. And then recently government has launched a National Sickle Cell Anemia Elimination Mission, which needs to eliminate SCD by 2047. So it was really surprising and shocking for thalassemia community that thalassemia was not included, because if thalassemia got included in the SCD mission, right, government can achieve huge cost synergies there, because the screening, the genetic counseling, and the cure for thalassemia and SCD is pretty much similar, right? So if I am investing 1,000 rupees, I will not need to invest 2,000 if I include thalassemia. I may do it in the similar cost, which is being invested for SCD. And there are many areas in India where SCD population is overlapping with thalassemia prevalence. So we can prioritize those areas to get maximum benefit. There is a 5-year project on CRISPR gene editing being launched under the project on SCD. And again, globally, trials have happened for both thalassemia and sickle cell, and the cure is already out. The first gene editing cure using CRISPR-Cas9 is out. But here we are just talking about SCD in CRISPR project. So with this is really shocking for thalassemia community. And my request to government is that RPWD Act is having provision for research and development, and we should take a holistic approach here and include SCD include thalassemia along with SCD to do it in a more cost-effective way, where like two disorders can be taken care at the same time. We don't need another 2091 project for maybe thalassemia. So we will not live long enough to see that. So we have to work in parallel here. So my sincere request to the ministry people here, like Mr. Rajesh, that please do something about it and include thalassemia in the SCD project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. I think we've kind of completed the panel in record time. I think if I can quickly summarize the key points, 2-3 points that my colleagues have mentioned here. One is on blood safety. A point has been made कि अगर हमारा blood ही safe नहीं है, जो कि हमारी basic ज़रूरत है, तो फिर what are we talking about? The second thing was on hydroxyurea, which Lalit made, that जब हम जिंदा रहेंगे तभी disability card या कुछ भी काम आएगा, तो जिंदा रहना और अच्छा रहना बहुत जरूरी है. And similar views were expressed by Harshal on hemophilia, and he also spoke at length about the prevention and how prevention can be done. And I think the most labored point was on the optimization, the cost optimization, as to if there is sickle cell, if there are provisions for sickle cell, missions for sickle cell, तो मिनिस्ट्रीज आपस में कोऑर्डिनेट क्यों नहीं कर सकते हैं, और सभी चीजों के लिए, सभी डिसऑर्डर्स के लिए वो सेम फंड्स क्यों नहीं यूज हो सकते हैं. लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट, जैसे इन्होंने जॉब रिजर्वेशन के बारे में बात की कि एजुकेशन में रिजर्वेशन है, बट जॉब रिजर्वेशन होना भी बहुत जरूरी है. एंड आई थिंक ये स्कोरिंग सिस्टम जो डॉक्टर सेठ ने बताया है, अगर उसको देखेंगे तो शायद मिनिस्ट्री भी ये रियलाइज करेगी कि हमारी जो पेन है और जो तकलीफें हैं, that warrants reservation and reasonable accommodation in jobs also. So with that, I will bring the panel to its close with a few lines from Sir Henry Ford. I have translated them. एक साथ आना एक शुरुआत है, साथ रह पाना प्रगति है, साथ मिलकर काम कर पाना सफलता है. तो आइए हम सब लोग सफलता की ओर अग्रसर हो. With that, many thanks to all the organizations for joining, and thank you very much, Secretary Sir, for sparing your valuable time. Thank you.
Thank you, Anuba. Wonderful message. And you have raised the very pertinent points for policymakers to look into. Now I welcome Mr. Ramu Gadkar, who is the Vice President Development, Hemophilia Federation, India, for his insights into today's proceedings.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Amitabh sir. Thank you so much for introducing me. Namaskar, good evening, respected Chief Guest Rajesh Agarwal sir, my President Prem Rup ji, respected all doctors with all guests and all participants. मैं रामू गडकर, वाइस प्रेसिडेंट डेवलपमेंट हीमोफीलिया फेडरेशन इंडिया, आप सभी को डिसेबिलिटी दिव्यांग दिवस की शुभकामनाएं देता हूं और आज के इस टॉपिक को शुरुआत करता हूं. आज के हमारे सभी स्पीकर बहुत ही शानदार प्रेजेंटेशन सरल रूप में प्रस्तुत किया और हमें अच्छा से समझ में भी आ गया. इसके लिए मैं उनका मनपूर्वक धन्यवाद कहना चाहूँगा. हमारे साथ हमारे जो हीमोफीलिया फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडिया की इसी मेंबर मैनेजमेंट, हमने लगातार गवर्नमेंट के साथ एडवोकेसी एफर्ट्स के कारण अधिकांश राज्यों में हमें हीमोफीलिया का अच्छा इलाज मिल रहा है. आने वाले वर्षों में हम तीनों डिजीज साथ में मिलकर गवर्नमेंट के साथ अगर हम एडवोकेसी करेंगे तो मुझे लगता है कि हम और मजबूत होंगे. हम सभी रक्त विकार के एनजीओ साथ मिलकर सभी चुनौतियों को पार कर लेंगे और भविष्य में भी साथ मिलकर हम कार्यक्रम करेंगे. मुझे विश्वास है हमारा लक्ष्य हासिल हम जल्दी करेंगे. वन कंट्री वन ट्रीटमेंट जो हमारा हीमोफीलिया फेडरेशन ऑफ इंडिया का लक्ष्य है और हम उसको जल्दी हासिल करेंगे, हम तीनों रक्त विकार के एनजीओ साथ में आने के बाद. आज के इस अंतर्राष्ट्रीय दिव्यांग दिवस के उपलक्ष्य मैं एक कोट कहना चाहूंगा, आइए दिव्यांगों को मुख्य धारा में लाने का और उनका उचित सम्मान करने का हम आज संकल्प करते हैं। इसी के साथ मैं मेरा स्पीच खत्म करता हूँ। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, आप सभी ने मुझे बोलने के लिए मौका दिया उसके लिए। थैंक यू सो मच। नमस्कार।
Thank you so much, Ramoji. Thank you. So, as we come to the conclusion of this wonderful webinar today, I introduce Dr. Ritika Sood. Ma'am is a professor of medicine at Lady Hardinge Medical College, and she is also member of the subcommittee for revision of blood disabilities. And I request ma'am to give the thank you note and also to conclude today's proceeding officially. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amitabh. And so as we bring the webinar to a close today, I think it has been a very insightful and extensive discussion. So it would not be complete without conveying our gratitude to all those people who have made this event a true success. Thank you, Shri Rajesh Agarwal ji, Secretary, Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India, for really making the situation seem more hopeful for each and every individual who is present here today. A big thank you to all the eminent speakers and panelists who have been able to give their inputs and insightful thoughts and broadening our perspectives. Thank you, Dr. Sunita Mandal ma'am, Shri Dharyal sir, Dr. Andrula, Ms. Biba Tinga, Ms. Vinita Srivastav, Dr. Sanjay Vadwa, Dr. Tulika Seth, Dr. J.S. Arora, Mr. Harshal Kale, Mr. Anuj Vadera, Mr. Lalit Kishore Pargi, Mr. Ramu Gatkar. Thank you all very much for being here. A big thank you to our moderator, Dr. Amitabh, who has seamlessly taken us through the entire webinar. And thank you, Anubha, for the wonderful panel discussion that you conducted. And I don't think words would be enough to thank our organizers, Mrs. Shobha Tulli, Mr. Prem Roop, Alva, Shri Gautam Dongreji, for bringing all the three organizations together and conceptualizing this wonderful webinar. Thank you once again. It would not be complete without thanking DGHS sir and NHM for taking up the cause and constantly being there and working towards the improvement of the guidelines. And deepest gratitude to our backend team, Upasna and Harshal, and the entire hemophilia team led by Mr. Prem for really working on all the logistics and technical part of the webinar. And would also say a big thank you to the patient advocacy groups for truly keeping the momentum on always. And we are not going to end the webinar without an assurance that this meeting is not the last of its kind, but rather I would say is the first of its kind. So we really look forward to having many more such, virtual as well as physical meetings where we are really going to be able to take the cause forward. Thank you once again, everyone, for really making this webinar a real success. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We officially conclude our webinar and see you next time. The announcement for the next webinar will come soon. Looking forward to see you in the next webinar. Thank you, everyone.
ग्रुप फोटो करते सभी कैमरा ऑन करके मैं
Okay.
स्क्रीनशॉट लेता हूँ। सभी जन अगर कैमरा ऑन करेंगे तो yes. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks to